not wasting these gold moments on 60 Minutes.
Oh, wow, Rob, what a treat and a joy to be talking to you.
Is that a Ben, Rob and Robbo exclusive?
I'm liking your new digs. This is flashier than any studio that I've ever worked in.
I want to come on this show all the time because no other show would ever set me up with that much room for danger.
Rob and Robbo. Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. News, entertainment too. It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to what is a crazy Wednesday. You call it hump day, I say anything can go wrong Wednesday. And I think I just heard a microphone falling over. Hello, Benjamin Norris and David Robinson. Ben, was that your microphone falling over?
No, it really wasn't.
Oh,
It was me
Robbo's.
nearly falling over.
Okay. I love it. Robbo, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. And my microphone's tip-top in great condition right now. Very excited to talk into that today.
You used to have microphone issues. You couldn't keep it up. And I remember having to come up to your place and gaffer tape it to keep it up and keep it... Oh, I don't want to say erect.
Oh my God, do what you do. Move on, you dirty bastard. We've got a lady in the house, for goodness sake.
Do you know what? We do have a lady in the house, so let's bring her in because every Wednesday we are joined by a wonderful guest host, and this week's special guest is a returning member. We couldn't get enough of her last time. She's with us again, Anjali Rao. Hello, and welcome back.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Well, you know what? I'm so happy to have you here because we need a bit of testosterone in the place when you've got me, Ben, and Robbo. So it's good to...
I'm not sure I can bring the testosterone. But
Well, you bring more than us, was my point. You bring more than us.
He means well.
I do actually want to talk seriously a moment because you've been in the headlines recently after you spoke out about the racism you've experienced in the Australian media industry. The article you were involved in, you told them you were told you were too brown and too foreign and that Australian audiences were not ready for people of colour on their screens. How on earth do you respond to something like that?
In open-mouthed fascination, mostly. But they'll tell me to my face, so at least they're honest about it. They're not sort of, saying things behind my back. It's just straight to your face. You're too ethnic. You've got an unpronounceable name, which was a corker. I thought, if you can't pronounce 4 syllables, I'm not the problem.
Now, having said that, I probably don't say your name right because I can't even say my own name right, but it's not exactly a hard name, I will be honest. And look, the fact is, I can attest when you were on Studio 10, it was never a problem. The audience never had a backlash, and you filled in for Sarah Harris. We actually had you fill in for quite some time, actually, when she was on maternity leave, I believe. And there was never any backlash. So this fallacy is just complete hogwash.
There actually was from viewers. It's very depressing, but 100% of the time, not 99%, not 98%, 100% of the time that I've ever been on commercial TV in this country, I'll always get racist crap thrown at me online, always. And it's never happened in any other country in the world. I honestly can't get my head around it because, as you know, I'm half Indian, half Australian. My mother's from Bendigo in country Victoria. Like, it doesn't get much more Aussie than that. But I'm seen as different, and that's not embraced at all. It's actually a really big drawback. And I was warned about that before I moved over here this time around. And I completely dismissed it. I was like, don't be ridiculous. That's insane. But the warnings were sadly true.
Oh, Ange, I'm so sorry. I didn't realise that was happening when you were on Studio 10. I'm so sorry. I've learnt something today, so Jesus.
And I have just lost my sound with you.
Well, I was just saying sorry. No. I didn't know, but we'll come back to you in a moment because you've got a lot to say. But before we get into our hot button issues, let's get an update on the coronavirus latest news from around Australia with Robbo.
Robert, thank you. This is the latest in COVID-19 news here on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. And we'll go to Victoria first, where there have been 90 new cases of coronavirus in the last 24 hours and tragically 6 further deaths. All of those are linked to aged care. Yesterday's daily figure of testing was the lowest it's been since the beginning of the second wave in June, and a leading epidemiologist has called on Victoria's health authorities to begin wide-scale testing of those who don't have symptoms of COVID-19 to prevent a potential third wave. To New South Wales now, there have been 17 new cases reported, with just one of those in hotel quarantine. Moving to the Sunshine State, there are just 2 new cases of COVID-19. Both of those are from known infections. A school in Redbank Plains is closed with a 3rd student diagnosed. The state now has a total of 28 active cases. To overseas, and more than 23,000 Australians have now registered with the federal government to say they want to come home, growing by 5,000 in the last 2 weeks alone. And the Australian Bureau of Statistics will be releasing figures today highlighting the state of the economy, and this data has shown that we are officially in a recession. Finishing up, Rob, I've got some good news. Australia's 7-day case average has dropped below 100.
Oh, that's awesome news, Robbo. Nice for you to bring us that update, and some good news in there, which is quite nice. So thank you for that. Let's move on to our hot button issues. And before we do that, let me just let you know, Julia Morris is coming up a little later on the show, and I am going to get her to tell us one of my favourite stories that is just such a thing of folklore that happened in the industry with her, and I just want I want you guys to hear this story because it's a cracker. And we'll also have Bruno, and he's going to make your life a little easier with his guaranteed surefire Bruno approved way to make your life easier and better. So that is coming up today, but first let's get into our hot button issues. And it was one of the worst kept secrets in sport, and it's finally been confirmed. The 2020 AFL Grand Final will be held at the Gabba in Brisbane on October 24. Swarms of executives and team officials have landed in Brisbane to quarantine and begin the massive task of bringing the grand final to life. However, it has caused a storm of controversy for Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk, who's been accused of having double standards. In total, 400 people connected with the AFL were allowed to enter Queensland, but previously the Premier has taken a very hard line on others crossing the border. Ben, I've got to say, she's not letting them through without quarantining. So what is the issue here?
Yeah, I think that seems fairly strange with those double standards. I mean, you know, when you're bringing it down to the nitty gritty and some of the, you know, lines that she's drawn, which are extremely hard for her to have drawn, then to sort of double back on that when it comes to AFL, I think she's going to cop some very horrific backlash, to be honest with you.
But I don't understand the problem, and if people are quarantining, they're going through the process. All the cases we're talking about previously, and you'd be across this more than me, that's been because people have wanted to bypass the quarantining, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, I completely agree that it would be double standards for sure if those people didn't have to quarantine. But, it's inevitable that Anastasia Palaszczuk would be attacked for it, whichever way you look at it, because, every premier is copying something COVID related. So, of course, she would be completely skewered for this. And I don't understand why people are so, up in arms over it either, because they are doing the right thing as far as I know. And she's doing the right thing by having them quarantined. So I'm not really sure what all the fuss is about, other than people things. They just need something to whinge about.
I swear to God, it's just like, what can we attack our leaders on today? That's what it feels like sometimes. And Rob, I've got to say I'm a little bit over it.
Is it not a perception thing, though? The woman we're talking about here, who had to travel 16 hours to get to a hospital in Sydney because Anastasia wouldn't let her cross the border. She was only 30 k's from the Queensland border. She ended up losing one of her twins. This is not a good look.
Hang on, Anastasia Palaszczuk did not stop her crossing the border.
Excuse me. Yes, she did. She is the premier of the state. The buck stops with her. The perception is that she said, 400 of you, 400. It's just 400, we're able to cross the border from Melbourne. Yes, they're going to quarantine. It's a perception issue. That's the problem.
But
this woman lost her
twin. They're going through a 2-week quarantine like every other person can.
I understand that, but she couldn't have 2 weeks, and we've proven that she couldn't have 2 weeks because she lost her bloody twin. So
Yeah,
this is
but
where there
that
needs
also
to be
came
some
down
kind
to
of...
doctors determining that this was an emergency on a certain level to get across the border.
We
which
don't. No,
is,
that's not true.
It
They
is
just
true.
didn't allow. It's not. They didn't allow her to cross the border, and they told her, "No, you need to go to Sydney. You're in New South Wales. Queensland hospitals are for us.
Because it obviously
You've got
wasn't
your own
determined to
hospitals
be a
in
certain
there."
kind of case that allowed them, that needed that emergency treatment.
Well,
now,
weirdly,
in hindsight,
it
it's a
certainly turned
wonderful
into that
thing.
case, though,
I know a
because
baby
the
died.
twin died
I
after
understand
16 hours of travel. But let 400
Yeah, I
AFL
thought
people in.
that was the point as well. Yeah, and I'm sure that's just a terrible look, particularly for those poor parents looking at
Yeah, of
the fact
course.
that 400 people who are related to the AFL in whatever way got to, whereas as they didn't. So I feel like there's more to that story though.
Yeah,
And,
look,
and a very important thing that also is that even if you're in quarantine, if you come from Victoria, New South Wales, or the ACT, even if you do quarantine, you don't have the option to quarantine for 2 weeks. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed in the state. So why are these 400 people from the AFL all of a sudden allowed to cross this border that is impenetrable, that no one's allowed to come in here from those states, but all of a sudden these 400 can? Double standard.
You are
It's
right.
the
There have
definition
been
of double
determined
standard.
hotspots. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, but
The whole
I was
state
just
is a
gonna say-
hotspot.
I think that what Robbo is saying is right, and I do agree with him. I think perception in times like this is really important, and I think it's important for Anastasia Palaszczuk to understand that. At the end of the day, I guess she thinks she's doing the right thing for the economy by doing this, but I think it comes across like a double standard.
You know what? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Queensland to get the AFL Grand Final, which has never been played outside of Melbourne. WA wanted it. South Australia wanted it. Queensland were fortunate enough to get it. And you just know, yes, there will be medical examiners looking at everyone so they can take the risk with having people from Melbourne doing a 2-week quarantine under constant medical supervision to make sure that everything is A-OK.
Yeah, and I think that's fine, Rob. I think that's fine. I think that they are 100%
But couldn't let that
going
sick
to
mother
need...
across the border. No, that's right. Yeah, the AFL's a
I'm not having.
once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
You know what? I can't defend the decision not to let that mother across the border. Right? I actually can't defend that. I think that's a stuff up, and they've actually changed things since then about the bubbles, about letting people into get emergency surgery. So there have been changes after that tragic circumstance. We do need to learn and go forward so that doesn't happen again. And I think, you know what, fair enough. You're raising a very good point there. But when it comes to the AFL, I really don't have a problem with them doing, and I've been hard line on the borders. I've been like, yes, have the borders up. I really just don't see an issue here. This is great for Queensland.
Yeah,
Well, don't
I think
close the
so too. I
borders
think it's
then.
really good that they stepped up, and invested in this as well, because I think it actually shows one of the best examples of crisis management and cooperation in this pandemic when there's been such a lack of it in so many other quarters.
Great point. But Robbo, the idea of not closing the borders, I just can't agree with that. And the people of Queensland don't agree with that.
No, but we're allowing 400 people from Victoria, the worst hit state in Australia at this time. They're struggling through a massive pandemic, but we're allowing 400 people from Victoria to come into Queensland. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and it certainly doesn't
But I
sound
guess
like
we
double
kind of
standard.
also need to remind ourselves that Anastasia Palaszczuk has been letting some people in, already. So, I mean, there are special circumstances that have allowed for her to let people into Queensland. So, look, I 100% consider, this is the first time ever I'm going to say this on this show, but I am on the fence with this, and I've never been a fence sitter in my entire life.
Pull
but
those splinters out of your bum, Ben.
I know, but it's painful. It really is to have those splinters in there because I really want to side with one of the two of you.
Well,
just to
the
sort
answer
of
is simple. You
keep this
always
fight going.
side with Rob. If in doubt, go with McKnight.
Well,
anyway.
that makes me want to go with Robbo. So
I
I'm
knew
gonna go with
it
Robbo.
would.
Exactly.
Oh, I knew it would. I
Absolutely.
actually
That kind of
knew it would.
arrogance.
All right, let's move on. And in another example of why 2020 is shaping up as a year we'd all rather forget, it seems likely the Sydney New Year's Eve fireworks will be cancelled. Deputy Premier of New South Wales, John Barlow, along with Police Minister David Elliott, both have grave concerns about the safety and well-being of people who would inevitably gather around the harbour. Anjali, is this the right move after such a challenging year? Wouldn't it be great to have the fireworks go off? Oh, we've lost
No.
Angelique there.
I will answer for her. The answer
I
is
thought
no.
she was deep in thought there. But,
Sorry, I lost you. But I'm back.
Oh, fantastic. Angelique, my heart was broken when I thought you just left us. We're talking about the fireworks.
It was listening to all that stuff about Ben's bottom. I was so offended.
Fair.
So, Ange, what do you think? Should the fireworks go ahead in Sydney?
What? No, this is a complete road. You can't go around, cancelling everything else and then let what could be the super spread event of the year carry on as normal. And, quite apart from that, it's like, given the cost of putting them on, there are so many better ways to be spending that money right now in sectors that are really, really struggling. And anyone who's sitting there whinging about no fireworks this year really needs a massive priority check.
Yep.
100%.
Well, you know what? The one thing I would say is that I actually wouldn't mind if they were going on, but people weren't really allowed to go into the city. I love the fireworks, Robbo.
Just save some money, replay them from last year, you'll be fine. Rob,
Absolutely.
no, I'm sorry.
Nailed it.
We're not going to spend stacks of cash for no good reason, and I can guarantee you that's going to do nothing for people's peace of mind. I know where you're going. You think, fireworks, it's great, it's good for people, it's a positive thing, but money needs to be spent on so many better things than this. I would be fine with all of the fireworks money being wrapped up in a bow and sent off to that woman who lost one of her twins. I would say that is a moment that I would get behind rather than fireworks while we all sat at home.
Well, I tell you what.
There has been an argument that you would still do them, but you'd televise them and you wouldn't allow people to come on the foreshore.
Yeah.
We know that won't work, especially in Sydney,
Absolutely
where
not.
essentially the cloud of COVID-19, while still around us, is far less in places like Sydney and Queensland as opposed to Victoria. So people will turn up. And I just think that that's too much of an issue for police. It's too much for the government. They shouldn't go ahead. And that's just it. It's just one of those things. The Tamworth Music Festival, which can attract 40,000 people to a regional area, has been cancelled this year because of COVID-19. So you can't then have Sydney, the trashy Queen capital of Australia, going, well, it doesn't apply to me. It does apply to you, and I don't think they should go ahead.
All right, well, I tell you what we do. We've been talking about it. I reckon we do a special New Year's Eve episode of the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. We start at 7 o'clock. See if any of us are still standing by midnight when the New Year's Eve comes around, as we drink up and just chat for the night and cross to people like Angie. Ange, we've just roped you in. Get a load of celebrities on the crosses.
Love to.
It could be the biggest night in ever. We could just share New Year's Eve with Australia.
Yes,
I reckon we should do that.
Great.
All right.
I'm all for it.
That should be the promo.
Yeah, exactly. All right. It was only a year ago when Victoria passed legislation that allowed terminally ill people to end their lives. And in that time, 124 people have done just that. The number is far greater than what was anticipated. Initial estimates put the number at around 12 per year, but it's more than 10 times that. Now, officials are calling for the federal government to scrap a law that prohibits people talking about euthanasia on the phone or internet. They argue that for many people, especially those in regional areas, they're put at risk, put at a massive inconvenience in order to travel and visit doctors. The legislation says that someone must apply 3 times to end their lives, and 2 doctors, one of which must be a specialist in the area of the patient's disease, need to sign off on the application. The federal government have said they have no plans to change the laws. Robbo, it's interesting, isn't it? We have people like Tony Abbott coming out today saying that euthanasia is terrible, that it should absolutely be scrapped, and in the same breath saying that we should open up businesses, and some people will have to die from COVID-19. Why is it okay to die from COVID-19, but it's not okay for people to take control of their lives with euthanasia?
Well, Rob, the best way that I can explain that statement is to remind everyone that Tony Abbott's an idiot. He's always been an idiot, and he continued to be an idiot. So when you hear an idiot talk, you always take it
he represents
with
a
a
lot
grain
of
of
views,
salt.
though, Robbo. He represents conservative views
He does.
that should be respected.
You just asked me. He's an idiot. That's what my.
Yeah, but
I don't think he should be respected. He's an idiot. No,
he was
did
the
you
Prime
not
Minister
ask
of
my opinion?
Australia. I
represent
think there needs a
people's
level of
opinion.
respect there.
I don't
don't
agree
like
with you
Tony
because
Abbott, but
he
I'm
is an
just saying,
idiot. He did a lot of bad things. He was a sexist. He was a misogynist. He was homophobic. He's now anti-euthanasia. He's anti-anything. He ate an onion. He's an idiot. So that's just, if you ask for my opinion, I'll bloody give it to you. The second
And
thing
coming
is,
up next, Tony Abbott joins us. So
yeah, I can't wait.
no, he's not going to join us now. Right, he's hung up the
let's
line.
get back to this. This is outrageous. That I will tell you right now that I weirdly spoke to my family about this only a couple of days ago, and I said I want to be euthanized. There's no question about it. If I lose a quality of life that I deem a quality of life, that 2 doctors deem a quality of life, then I want to be euthanized. The important thing to remember here is the legislation in Victoria is pretty much watertight. You've got to get a doctor who's a specialist, as you mentioned. You've got to get another doctor. You've got to apply 3 times. It's all watertight. So to have this idiot come along, and anyone else really, because clearly I'm pro euthanasia, once all of those those boxes are ticked. I'm not saying that anyone can just go, oh, I've got a bit of a headache. No one's arguing that. These are people who are either going to die within 6 months or 12 months. They are in so much pain. They should have the right to control their body and control what's happened to them. Tony Abbott is desperate for relevance. He's just been picked up for a Brexit trade position in Britain. The Britons don't want him either. So he's not someone that's sought after. But he's just begging for relevance. And remember, this is the man who still has said, if the leadership came up, and if he could win an election again, he'd be happy to.
Okay, but this issue isn't about Tony Abbott. This is about something bigger than Tony Abbott.
You brought him up, so I'm responding to you.
I did, but I didn't realise you'd go on a 5-minute tirade about Tony Abbott, to be honest.
But then I brought it back to the topic
again.
Then
I
I
had
brought
my
it back to the
suspicions.
topic.
Ange, what do you think?
I can't honestly imagine that there are still people who are opposed to euthanasia. It's by far the most humane way to go about things. If you're, in such a state of ill health and pain and distress that this is a decision that you make and nobody makes it lightly, I think, how can anybody oppose that? It's like the argument is always, we put animals down all the time, and that because it's kind, because that's the kind way to do things. And I completely agree that the same should be said for humans. But, one of the things that, yes, you're right, Robbo, and that, it is fairly watertight in Victoria, the legislation surrounding euthanasia. But one of the things that I think is still such a problem is that it requires face-to-face assessments between the person who wants to end their life and their doctor, and particularly at this specific time, I think that poses a massive risk as well, health-wise amongst COVID, when you've got to travel sometimes so far, particularly if you're in regional Victoria, to have that face-to-face and you're in immense pain. I think there's something about that just doesn't sit right at all and needs to be looked at.
And I totally agree with you, because just the other day I had a doctor's appointment. The doctor had showed some symptoms of COVID, so automatically it went back to what we've been experiencing for the past couple of months, and that is telehealth. We had the phone call, we had the whole appointment on there. I just think it's outrageous and so tone deaf. I agree with you that Christian Porter, the Attorney General, has said, well, we're not going to change the laws. Like you said, if at any point at this time the law should change to allow for telehealth, that it should allow for phone calls and internet correspondence. It is now, isn't it? Especially for the people who are terminally ill.
Yep,
Yeah,
for sure. And it should be used as a trial as well going forwards for how it might look in the future.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Let's use the time to do a trial. Brilliant, yeah.
All right.
I was just going to say, I think...
Go, Ben.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to take the opportunity to remind people that if they're suffering from a personal crisis, that they can reach out. I know that a few people who watch the Ben, Rob and Robbo show have actually reached out to me in the past when they've had troubled times, and I've always been there to interact with them. And I tell you, on behalf of Rob and Robbo and Angelique today, I think it's important to remind our listeners out there that they should, always ask for help if they're in a troubled situation.
Very well said, Ben. And you can see some lines up there. Lifeline is 13 11 14. Beyond Blue 1300 22 4636. All right. Well, we all love a bit of community spirit, but what about this? Defiant motorists have banded together to put together a map of New South Wales and the ACT, pinpointing where speed and mobile detection cameras are on our roads. The interactive map has been used by more than 2 million people and features more than 500 entries, including speed cameras, hotspots for RBTs, and mobile drug tests. The NRMA spokesman has said they do not want police or mobile cameras to be tracked, as they have an important job to do in our community. And is this just encouraging people to break the law in places that they know they won't get caught?
Yes. I think that was the entire.
Yeah, okay, but all right. I agree. I agree. What do you think, though, of the idea? Look, fixed speed cameras, the whole point is to slow motorists down. So if people know where their speed cameras are, isn't that achieving its goal?
Yes, primarily. I mean, look, the guy who set up this site is basically like, the Julian Assange of camera detection. Some are going to praise him as the messiah of the roads, and others are going to see him as Satan. But I think I'd be in the not a fan category. Not also because I have never speeded. But because
you're an angel.
I really am. I know, angely row.
I liked that.
Make that hashtag.
I mean, I guess the thing is, our road toll, obviously, casualty toll is far too high in this country because of speeding and people on their phones. I totally understand that, and that's why I don't think I'd be, a fan of this particular site. But the other thing I don't understand is how the site is different from, like, those camera detection apps that are already readily available.
There's a program called Waze, which acts like Google Maps, and it will tell you, acts like a GPS in Google Maps. And as you're driving along, it will tell you where speed traps are or cameras, and you report as you're going. If there's a hazard on the road, not just police, but if there's a hazard, you mark that in, and you basically share data with other users.
Or even in much smaller level, when motorists are flashing their lights at each other to let them know that there's, say, a booze bus up ahead. Doesn't New South Wales still have those signs letting motorists know that they're in the vicinity of a speed camera? Do you guys still have that?
Yes, they do. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't really understand how that's all so different from what this bloke is doing.
The whole signage thing in New South Wales goes back to when the government of the day, back in the 80s or 90s, brought speed cameras in. Everyone said, it's revenue raising. And they said, oh, well, we'll put these signs up. And that way, if you're still caught, you're doing the wrong thing and we've warned you. So it harks back to then. And every time they talk about taking them down, everybody, including the papers, get up in arms saying, it's just revenue raising. It's revenue raising. So, these things, sometimes things like that are very political. But I've got to be honest, I use Waze and I keep a track of where police are, where construction is, where there's hazards on the side of the road. And I don't feel guilty about that at all. I do try to keep within the speed limit. I certainly had a bit of a lead foot when I was younger. But, I like that extra reminder of slowing down. It works for me. Good.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm glad.
Sorry, I was waiting to be
it.
berated by everybody for using an app like that. That's what I waited for, but it didn't come.
Yeah, I know. God, Robin.
I was going to berate
Keep
you.
up.
You were, Ben? Well, I'll give you the last word before we move on.
No, I just wanted to know, what speed do you go when you're going to McDonald's to get those cheeseburgers?
Hamburgers. I don't have the cheeseburgers for the last.
He doesn't like cheeseburgers. It's hamburgers with the meat and the sauce. That's all he wants.
But
is that all you want?
But then all bets
I've got
are
more
off.
issues with your order at Macca's than I do with your laws on the road.
No, I love a large hamburger meal, mate. A hamburger and no pickles on that burger. No pickles.
You're a very simple man, aren't you?
I am a very simple man. In my food tastes as well.
Yeah.
And now we've got a clip from Forrest Gump.
All right. I think we should move on because we've got a very special guest. Well, word has leaked out on the internet that the Masked Singer's kitten was none other than Julia Morris, but that didn't ruin the magic moment when the head came off. Take a look at what happened last night on the Channel 10 smash hit show.
Don't tell me what to do, and don't tell me what to say, and please, when I go out with you, don't put me on display. Take it up! 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 It's Julia Morris! It's Julia Morris!
Would you believe the one and only Julia Morris is with us now? Julia, welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, look, you've done a lot of crazy things in your life, but surely this was one of the craziest.
Well, you're absolutely right. I've done some insane stuff over the years, but this was not only one of the craziest, it was genuinely one of the more enjoyable things that I've done. And I'm not sure if that's actually Stockholm Syndrome talking, because I have been in the house for just on 25 weeks. So to get out was going to be a pleasure anyway. But to get in that great big costume and just not have to be anything else other than a singer was a real treat.
But you genuinely seem to be having the time of your life.
Yeah, I was having a ball. I was having an absolute ball. I realised how silly the kitty looked. It was fun. The songs were great. The crew were amazing. So honestly, it was really exciting to be back making television again.
Yeah, but one of my favourite bits was the very end of the show last night when you had the head off and you were just singing your heart out. And even though you've had a bad back during that time, you did a very Julia Morris thing. You got on your back, you gave it your all. You're like, stuff the back, I'll deal with that later. And you got out there and you had a go.
I know. I wanted to be like a proper kitty and get on the floor and get a little tummy scratch from Osher. That was really most of my motivation for the end there. Plus, I had nothing to lose by then. When they said my name, I have to say I got a little bit. I had one of those sort of teary, odd breathing moments. You know when you get I had one of those ones. I know. Talk about way too invested. But so I was so disappointed, but once I was revealed, you know, it was so much fun then to have that final scene.
Well, talk about revealing. The other day you were accidentally outed as kitten on 2GB by the designer. Did the producers lose their minds when that happened?
Well, luckily that's all out of my pay grade. That is such a long way from anything that I get exposed to. But I mean, mind you, Tim did make a series of the most exquisite costumes I've ever seen in my lifetime.
I don't believe for one moment you didn't hear what was being said about being out.
You know what, though? I think because he's so warm and he's so lovely.
Oh, there was nothing mean in it. It was a pure accident. You've got to feel for the guy.
Absolutely. And Deb Knight is a kick-ass journalist. And she did, I don't know whether it was on purpose or not, but she did that old journalistic trick where you say it like it's factual. And yes. I kind of think unless he was actually watching the show the night before, he has just seen it live for the last however many weeks.
Yes.
That he would know I was going this week, but he wouldn't necessarily have known whether it was that night or this night or what. And in interviews, I imagine he's not really used to lying.
Yes.
So
yes, which is what you have to do sometimes in these interviews. But I know you would never lie to me, Julia.
I haven't told a lie since 1973.
Well, is not telling your kids about this a form of lying?
Yes. Yes, it definitely is. Well, I didn't want to put them under that pressure so that it was their secret to keep. I mean, you know, we're sitting on secrets all year in this industry. You would be the same. We all are. And there's a right time to reveal and there's a wrong time to reveal, and you just really hope it doesn't come out of your head at that moment.
Well, look, Channel 10 seem to love you, and even in these challenging times, they're determined to bring back I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Yeah, which is very exciting for me because, you know, nobody really knows when they're going to be working, how they're going to be working, in what form they're going to be working. I don't even know where we are going to be working at the moment.
Well,
there's
it's all
obviously
confirmed. It's the New South Wales Coast, up in northern New South Wales, right?
Not as far as I know. That definitely, I believe they've got a number of things in place. And September is what we've been waiting for. September for the government's announcement, the federal government's announcement as to whether we can go wheels up and return to our beloved Kruger National Park.
Yes.
Or I assume they have another number of options standing by. I mean...
Well, I've got to tell you, I actually love the idea of you guys using northern New South Wales. So what people may not know is that's where the English version is set. They come out here to Australia, filming a property right on the border here in Queensland. And I thought, geez, it's so close, I could pop down and say g'day, whether I'm invited or not, Julia.
But you know what? We also have been rumoured to be in the Blue Mountains for years. So are we just returning to the Blue Mountains set?
I know you haven't been in the Blue Mountains. I know you've been in South Africa, but I think an Australian version would be quite interesting because we've gotten back to that idea of, you know, that had that scariness of being in another country. It wouldn't hurt the show in any way, shape or form to do it in New South Wales, I don't think. Hey, look, when I interviewed you last year for the McKnight Tonight podcast, you told me a very personal story about a mishap that happened on the set of I'm a Celebrity and your brand new trailer. I want you to share that story with the guys. Can I ask it again? I know it got talked about a bit when we talked about it. It's one of my favourite TV stories ever.
Well, also it ended up being one of Kitten's clues.
Did it really?
It was a clue about a tradie. There was something with a plunger. But what I mean, honestly, it is one of the more embarrassing stories of my lifetime. But they built me a little cabin, and not just me, for the doctor and I, because we're so remote. They built us it's a shipping container that they made into a little kind of section
dressing
for us
room
to
trailer,
sit in,
like the movie stars have.
Totally. So the guys who run the unit now, are the guys and girls who look after the set everywhere around the tech base, what have you. So a chap came up and he said, listen, I just want to let you know that your toilet is not connected. So please, we're getting to it. I promise you it'll be done by tomorrow. If it flushes, it's working, but it's not working yet. So awkward. Please don't go to the bathroom. So I was like, no, of course I'll go down to the Portaloos, or do what most people do in television, which is just hold it till you get home and then like violently tap the key on your front door because you're so desperate to get through the door. You're just like this. Anyone who can't swim,
we've all
been there. In trouble. So bad. So then the next morning I came in and I flushed it and I thought, well, there's the flush. It's working. Beautiful. And there's nothing quite like getting up at 4:30 in the morning and having a coffee as the first thing that you do in your day. So without, I'm not going to give you too many details because nobody really needs to hear it, but I went to the bathroom, which I'm always grateful for at this age. And then I just sat in the trailer, got dressed, got ready to go up to studio, and a knock came at the sliding door, and there was a chap just saying, can you please not use the toilet facility? And I said, no, someone spoke to me yesterday and they said, don't use it until it flushes, and once it flushes, you're fine. So it's actually flushing now. It's fine. He's like, it's not fine. So I was like, okay, I won't use it. Moving forward, anyway, whatever. Okay, thank you. Anyway, so I get all dressed up. I come out. Chris comes out of his trailer at the same time. I see the lovely Stephen Tate, who is one of the executives for Channel 10, running up the street, kind of pointing, and everyone's sort of standing around pointing at my cabin. I don't understand what's happening. And I turn around and there's just a couple of little sweet poo-poos on the road.
I love how you say it, a couple of sweet little poo-poos, not a big giant
an open drain. I'm like, what is happening? I could see Stephen approaching. I'm like, that is my poo-poo on the road. Then I see the doctor come out of his cabin. He's like, what's happening? I'm like, nothing's happening. Do you even need to be out yet? He's like, what are you talking about? And with that, I'm trying to hide it from Stephen Tate. Like, do you really need your executive producer, bright and early in the morning having a little look at your poo-poo? So I was like, good morning. And Stephen goes, I've seen it. I was like, no. He said, I saw it roll out. And then I think everyone worries about, is the celebrity going to spiral out of control? So everyone was sort of sweetly trying to manage me about my poo-poo on the road. Oh, hardly anyone saw it. Oh, no, only the 500 people that just walked past it on their way to set saw it. But apart from that, and then the doctor's making kiwi fruit jokes. He's like, no, it's good to see you keeping up the kiwi, lover. I'm like, don't even speak to me. I don't even want to speak to anyone about this situation. So I'm just like, if you have taken a dump on a road on set in Africa, there's really not a lot else to hide.
If you haven't taken a dump in front of your workmates, you haven't lived. Let's be honest.
You have not lived. Boom. I mean, the fact that, anyway, we're not going to. I took a photo of it, and then I was going to talk about it.
Oh, is there a photo? I haven't seen the photo.
Oh, I've never released the photo. But it's there. It's just, you know what, the story's more fun than the photo. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think you're 100% right. Look, I do appreciate you indulging me because I know last time you told that story to me, it got picked up in the media on the Daily Mail and stuff like that. So
yeah, Star takes furious shit in street. What? What I didn't. You can ask Stephen Tate. He saw it roll out.
Yeah, if I can break the code of trust, he was the one who originally told me the story. That's how I knew it.
Well, it's become quite. I'm not sure it's a story to dine out on, but it's certainly one of those stories that when anyone hears it, they're just like, I can't even cope with.
I love it. I've got a laughing headache.
I can't even do a pichareta with someone in the next stall to me. You can imagine how I feel about, rolling one out in Africa. I'm like, come on. And then I wanted to, then I'm like, I'll pick it up. And the unit guys are like, no, you must not pick that up. You're in wardrobe. I'm like, mate, I'm the only one to pick that up. I don't want anybody near it. To get the gloves. It was like hanging out with Tootsie. Tootsie, my puppy dog.
I hoped. Julia, thank you so much. The Masked Singer continues on Monday night at 7:30 and 10 on Win. Julia will be going back for the finale, and we've got some news about that in entertainment because there have been more developments about the finale today. Julia, we are big fans of yours here at the Ben Robin Robbo Show. Thank you for being with us.
Love you guys. Thank you.
I love Julia Morris. She's the queen of television.
So great. And can I just say that every time Kitten came on the show, I've got two cats who are twin brothers, and they would start freaking out and getting all frisky and licking the screen. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to have to get your nuts seen to again?
Wow, okay. Now, look, I do want to explain because I think our viewers...
I want to get your nuts seen to again. Did you just say that line? I want to get your nuts
I
seen
certainly
to...
did.
Oh, that's beautiful. This is why we love you.
Look, we have to move on because we are running out of time, but I just need to explain to our viewers, the rest of our team was so desperate to be part of this. Ben has been a huge fan of Julia Morris forever and a day, but due to technical problems, we couldn't get the audio working with Julia hearing the other guys. So I'm so sorry, guys. We've had a few issues today behind the scenes, but... yeah, I'm so sorry. We'll get her back on the show. She's lovely. She'll come back. All right, time to bring in Bruno Boucher so we can look at the world through his eyes. Bruno, what are we looking at today? You've got another top 10 list for us.
Hey gang, yes I do. Now, listen, you're probably like me. You're online and you read about life hacks, right? And you start to go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, wow, this life hack, that life hack. And they're always lame, right? Have you ever actually heard a single life hack that was that hacked your life and made it better? And the answer, because I'll answer for you, is no. Until this segment, I put together my top 10. I put together my top 10 life hacks that I guarantee will change your life. If at least one of them doesn't change your life, I'll give your viewers $1 million each or something like that. Don't hold me to it.
He's actually got the money, by the way, anyway. People. He's actually got the money. He works for
that's
King
legally
Kyle.
binding.
Listen, let me delve right into it. These life hacks are going to change your life. In at number 10. Now listen, you know when you're on the phone to someone and you want to hang up but you don't want to be rude, instead of hanging up, hit airplane mode, and what it does, it triggers the call failed error as opposed to the hang up. So it's the perfect sneaky way to get off a call and make it look like it was a network error rather than you just having enough of chatting to Robbo for the
Robbo, if you
10th
dare
time
use
day.
that one on me, I will know.
I hate phone calls, and I hate receiving them from Rob, from Ben, except for Angeline, except for you, Bruno. So I'm going to be using that call fail.
Thank you,
We've got a
darling.
problem with the network around
You
here.
don't need
I'm
to
so
worry,
sorry.
Robert.
There's a
You never
network
answer
problem.
calls.
Yeah, and I've only called you
No, I
twice in my
can't because
life,
of the
and seeing
network.
as you didn't respond, I gave up.
All right. What's in number
Bruno,
Guys, let me
Bruno?
jump in. Number 9. Number 9. A great way to save money is for a set of free new tyres. Rent a car exactly like yours and just switch the tyres over. And then bring the rental back. And you've got yourself 4 new tyres.
That is fantastic.
Oh, that's
Oh,
brilliant.
Isn't it better off in
I
your
love it,
pocket?
love
Am I
it.
right? Yeah! Free money! Free
No money in
money!
the account.
Oh, number 8,
Guys,
Bruno.
in at number 8, a life hack that'll change your life is how annoying doing chores around the house. What you do, get wasted when you do them, and you won't even remember doing them. I do that one a lot, and I'll wake up the next day, and I'll be like, hey, who cleaned the outside patio? And my wife will be like, you did. You did vomit in the spare bedroom, but you did clean the patio. So
Swings and roundabouts.
thank you. You're a
Swings
good
and
boy.
roundabouts.
Exactly. Guys, number 7 of the guaranteed life hacks that'll change your life forever is save time by learning how to jaywalk legally. Now, for example, in New South Wales, jaywalking means that you've crossed when you're not supposed to cross within 20 metres of a crossing. So all that you have to do is be further than 20 metres from a crossing, and you can just walk across, and it's a legal jaywalk. Huh? Smart.
I like that. I like it a lot.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, guys, number 6, enter those inane 25 words or less competitions because you'll be the only one that does. You know, you see those all the time, and you're like, I'm not going to enter that 25 word or less competition. I know someone who does that. Do you guys know Intern Pete from the Kyle and
we
Jackie
love
O show?
Intern Pete.
He's
Yeah.
literally
Oh,
he's literally won trips to Singapore because he was the only one that filled out a 25 word or less competition for a major hotel chain.
Can
Do
I
it. You'll
attest
be
to
the only
this,
one
Bruno?
that does.
Seriously, I've worked in TV where there have been lots of competitions, and I can tell you, not many people enter those competitions.
Yeah, no one
true.
does. So
Love
you'll be
it.
the only one that does it. Yeah, so you're welcome. Guys, we're at the halfway mark of these incredible life hacks that have already transformed everybody's life. In at number 5, to get onto a human quickly when you're on with a call center, make crazy noises and mash your phone's keypad, right? Because what it's going to do, it's either going to try to figure out what you're saying through the phone's receiver or which option you're selecting. Now, if you're a maniac and going, you'll get straight through to a random person. I did that one with Jackie O because she didn't believe me. We did it on the air, and we got through to a Telstra operator within 20 seconds.
Oh
So
my God,
I
that's
promise you
awesome.
it
No
works, that one.
way.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. Guys, number 4, and this is good for all 4 of you because I know you're all booze hounds. When you go to a restaurant, you'll be tempted to go for the second most expensive bottle of wine, right? Because logically you're like, well, I can't afford the most expensive one, so I'll go the second most expensive one. Restaurants know you're going to do that, so the second most expensive wine is the one that's the most marked up. Do you get what I'm saying?
Gotcha,
So never
because they
order
know
the
people
second
do
most
that.
expensive one.
Ange, I saw you just having a sip. Have you got the second most expensive? She's got it
It
till
is-
Thursday early.
It's like
That's what you need to
one
do.
of the Twilight wines of Idaho.
What have we got next? Where are we up to? Zooming through.
Hey, we're in the final three, and these have all been fantastic. Number 3, and I do this one. Fool people into liking you by quoting them back to themselves. So, for example, say I catch up with Robbo on Wednesday and he tells me some big philosophical thing about, you can only ever burn a bridge once. When I catch up with him a few days later, I'll say to him, can I tell you, this one thing that I've just been replaying over and over in my head again is how you were saying that thing about burning a bridge, right? What that elicits in Robbo is he thinks that I like him. He thinks that I'm a good person because I've quoted him back. I promise you, if you quote people back to themselves, they will adore you and they'll forever think that you're friends. Do it. It'll change your life. Number two, guys, we've only got 2 left. Read 3 or 4-star reviews on sites like Day, TripAdvisor, Amazon, because people either put in one.
Oh my God, we've lost Bruno. Okay, we'll quickly go through, and I'm not going to do him justice, but he's saying only read 3 or 4-star reviews because they're the only ones that are truthful, because other people are at the extremes. Let's show what number 1 is, Amanda. And it's get online discounts. Now, what he's saying there is if you are at the checkout and you want to get an online discount, cancel the order. Tell them you don't want it, and they'll automatically give you an online discount. That is Bruno, the man in the know. I don't know which bunker he's...
What?
Oh, Rob, we've lost you there. We've lost
That's
your audio.
because I hit the wrong button. I crossed myself out. But you know what? We love Bruno. We love those tips. And I think his $1 million is safe. Let's get a hit of entertainment with Ben. And Ben, there's been some breaking news on The Masked Singer, as we promised with Julia.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this one's about the finale. Everyone's wondering when this finale will happen. But between yesterday and today, both Hughesy and Jackie O took to their respective radio networks to discuss the finale. So this is what we know. Check it out.
Yeah, and so the plan is we film on Sunday, I go home Monday, right?
Wow.
Yeah. But
Awesome.
I get a call from Channel 10, and this just shows you how cursed we are on the show.
What's happened now?
Apparently, the suburb we're in, which is Docklands, are doing a power outage on Sunday.
Oh, what the hell?
They've begged the company to please, don't do it on Sunday so we can just film this finale.
Yeah.
Couldn't convince them otherwise, so we are no longer filming.
When are you filming?
Like solar powered?
I don't know, Sophie. I asked these questions. I just got told it can't happen on Sunday anymore, so it's now extended for another day.
Ah, Ben, that's fascinating.
Well, in actual fact, that was not what I prepared, but what I did prepare was some audio of both of these people, because Hughesy then followed that, and Hughesy revealed that in actual fact it has been announced by Channel 10 that they will in fact be filming in Melbourne on Monday. So we will get that finale. There will be no interruptions with the programming. Everyone at the McKnight family can be happy.
Yeah, we love, because we do love that. We do love that show. Hey, who has dished the dirt on their relationship breakup?
So I need to talk to you about this because How to Life is a new podcast which is on Nova 100. It probably could be lost in the sea of podcasts, to be honest with you, because as we know, everyone's doing a podcast at the moment. But I enjoyed their first maiden voyage of a podcast, which was called How to Break Up in Front of a Million People. So look, they had Carlin Sterrett, who you would know as the winner of Angie Kent's Love on The Bachelorette. Anyway, he managed to reveal why they split. No one has known about this. Kyle and Jackie O tried to ring Angie. She didn't say anything. But on this podcast, we finally got an answer about what tore them apart. Check it out.
I'm fine with being honest with that I had my insecurities, and that's something that I was getting therapy for and talking to my therapist. But, also it must have been hard for Angie because she's cut off these relationships all of a sudden. She really cared for Tim. And then they were kind of messaging a little bit afterwards, and I was trying to play it cool. It's fine. And, it's all good. And I was trying to be nice and I was trying to do the right thing. And
because what is the right thing for anyone to do?
That's right. No one navigates this in their life.
It's
not
crazy.
normal. And so I was like, it's all good. And then just more and more her and Tim messaging each other, it just started to really eat me away. And yeah, that just added another thing. And
Geez, that's honest.
Yeah, well, I think that podcast is actually really good, so check that one out. It is on Nova 100's podcast. I will say, though, I was a little bit disappointed that Carlin did come out and say something, because I think it was originally part of the pact with Angie that they wouldn't be discussing the breakup and the reasons why. So I am friends with Angie Kent, so I kind of will side with her regardless. But anyway, now it's all out in the open, and you can check that podcast out.
All right. Thank you, Ben, and thank you for another hit of entertainment. And you have been fabulous. Please come back
love
again.
Angela
We
Rao.
absolutely love you.
Oh,
She needs to come
guys,
back.
I love you too. I would love to come
So
back.
good.
I absolutely love all of you. But right now I'm going to run away and deal with my cat's nads.
As you should. And we will see you tomorrow for the Ben, Rob and Robbo show for Tipsy Thursday and a few surprises. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo show. Ben, Rob and